that first step was a step I used to thin the walls and make, when you're centering and you open up, you've got this real flared part down here. So on the inside, you've got clay going like this, and on the outside you have clay going like that, so it's kind of a suction cup shape. So if you take your hand like a claw and squeeze that clay in at the bottom, you're kind of recentering that clay, and you just pull it slowly up towards yourself into more of a cone shape. And on the second step I use is kind of a scissor pull. I set the thickness on the outside, you gather a little bit of clay at the base, and you bring that finger up to the inside finger. And that second pull is a lot easier because I went through and recentered that wall. And you want to recenter the rim every time you pull. I usually try to collar a little bit to keep that top under control. Alright, so we're going to gather a lot of clay at the base. And basically what I'm doing is I'm coming kind of under that finger, undercutting a little bit, and as I pull up, this hand is going to slide out just a little bit and bring it up. Or slide in a little bit. Clay I was telling you about. So we're talking also about bottles. And if you're starting bottles, just first start with a cylinder with maybe just a tiny bit of shape to it. The last thing you're going to do with your cylinder is you're going to have your sponge on the inside instead of the outside. And you're going to take a nice straight edge. And what this is going to do is help to kind of compress the clay and get some of those wiggles out. And a nice straight cylinder so the sponge is now on the inside, pushing that clay up against that straight, flat surface. It's going to peel off all that extra gunk and straighten out your walls. Now I leave a little bit of clay down here at the base so that I can later trim that away. I'm going to collar it at the top. Have a sponge in one hand to give me plenty of moisture. And if you want to, you can give it a tiny bit of shape either by pulling it, or you can take a wooden spoon and push it into shape. I'm just going to pull a little bit more to get a little more height and a little more. It's actually pretty thin, so I'm not going to pull it too much. And then I'm going to take the straight edge again.
Why are you selecting that rib instead of a metal one?
Either one will work fine. I want something that's pretty straight up and down.
This may have more structure than the metal one too. The metal one might be too flexible.
It does, yeah. Although, if I'm working on a rounded surface, the flexible one is really, really nice. So. Alright, so I don't worry about, especially with crystalline, the straighter the side of the bottle. It is the theory that crystals don't grow very well on rounded surfaces, so the crystals tend to be smaller and a lot less impressive on real bulbous pieces. So I guess my point is, don't be so concerned that your bottle doesn't have a lot of shape. And I'm going to start at the top and just try to color that in at the top, and I use usually 3 points. So I've got my thumbs and these 2 fingers up here. This one knocks too, did you hear that? The wheel every once in a while, chunk. Interesting. And then instead of collaring up here where it's starting to go in, I come down just below that and start to collar in from there. If you start working just on the area that's already coming in, you're not gonna have enough clay to work with. Okay, so this part really takes a lot of patience. You're not gonna. There are some people who really are very aggressive at collaring, and it has to do with the type of clay you're working with, and also your experience. You have a lot more experience, obviously you know exactly where to push and how much you can push. This one where you can see that the clay is rippling just a little bit. As soon as it starts to ripple, rather than continuing with that, you want to just gently pull some of those ripples out. And by doing so, you can pull that into more of a collar. Water there. Okay, now I just want to get enough clay here so that I can start to thin this and pull that neck. And one of the things somebody wanted to see was a taller, narrower, skinny, delicate neck. Also, the pulling is more delicate too. Instead of doing this, I'm using very tiny little pressure points. So I pulled that ripple out, so I'm going to collar a little bit more. And I've been experimenting a little bit more with collaring myself to try to get taller necks. So I'm taking my finger down as far as I can, and with my little finger I'm pulling, and my thumb I'm stabilizing my little finger, and basically what the thumb is doing is it's telling me how close the inside finger is to my little finger for pulling. If I was just doing this, I would have no clue. Yeah, because these fingers talk to each other all the time, thumb and the finger, so they know how close they are, and I'm just telling the little finger how close it is to the inside finger. And then this is where I use my little flexible rib. Oh, two for the price of one.